You're listening to WQEE 99.1 FM, The Key in Noonan, Georgia, home of Braves Country with Mac McGee and the Armchair Quarterbacks, weekdays, 3 p.m. Eastern to 5 p.m. Eastern, right here on The Key and YouTube.com at Braves Country.
Tom is going to teach you for
money, you need to use it or lose it. Book an appointment today with Most Valuable Smiles in downtown Eatonton to lock in these exclusive deals. Call 706-623-0318 or visit mostvaluablesmiles.com.
Enjoy sun-drenched days, epic stays, and plenty of room to roam in Greater Fort Lauderdale. Our hotels, attractions, and restaurants have taken the Visit Lauderdale's Safe and Clean pledge so you can relax and explore with confidence. When you are ready for that well-deserved staycation, our 23 miles of golden beaches await. Find wide-open spaces to hike, bike, kayak, and paddleboard. Visit your favorite attractions, then dine out in style in dining rooms or al fresco on waterfront patios. Learn more at sunny.org.
It all starts with just one thing. When recycling, rinse out jars and cans, and avoid recycling wax paper or paper soiled with food. This will reduce recycling contamination. Find tips and more at onethingus.com. What's your one thing?
Hey, sports fans, The Key has a brand new show. Braves Country is coming your way weekdays, 3 p.m. Eastern to 5 p.m. Eastern. Drive time on WQEE. Braves Country is a Southern sports talk show with Mac McGee and the Armchair Quarterbacks. We'll be talking the Atlanta Braves and Major League Baseball, along with everything important to sports fans in Braves Country. The SEC, ACC, Big Ten, and the National Football League, and the big sports news of the day. That's Braves Country with Mac McGee and the Armchair Quarterbacks. Weekdays, 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. right here on WQEE, The Key, 99.1 FM, and simulcasting on youtube.com/at Braves Country.
At Shell, we know from the time you get up to the time you wrap up,
good night,
there's a lot of meetups, eat-ups, and hurry-ups. So come to Shell and get 3 things done at once. Fill up with Shell V-Power Nitro Plus to help keep your engine running like new. Save up with the Fuel Rewards program and never pay full price for gas again. And snack up with in-store rewards to save even more at the pump. Make the most of the stop you need to make with Shell. And engines that continuously use Shell V-Power Nitro Plus premium gasoline. See full terms and conditions at fuelrewards.com.
That
That's the sound of NyQuil Severe hard at work. NyQuil Severe is the best sleep with a cold medicine. No tossing and turning, just rest and recovery. So you're ready to take on tomorrow. For powerful relief of your worst cold and flu symptoms, try NyQuil Severe. The nighttime sniffling, sneezing, coughing, aching, stuffy head, best sleep with a cold medicine. Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
Hey, Braves fans, thank you for listening to Braves Country Baseball. Hi, I'm Mac McGee, and we are here to bring you play-by-play, pitch-by-pitch of your Atlanta Braves, bringing you spring training and 2 to 3 games a week all season long. Please like and subscribe today. Braves Country Baseball.
Winter is the perfect time to start planning for your healthy, pest-free spring lawn with True Green, America's #1 lawn care company. True Green's science-based approach and local expertise will help give your lawn the year-round care it needs to be thick and weed-free. Go to truegreen.com. Just call 866-946-5956 or go to truegreen.com today and get a lawn to be proud of.
Hey, sports fans, it's Rod Peterson here, host of The Rod Peterson Show, inviting you to join us daily for 2 hours of Atlanta's funnest sports talk right here on WQEE. I say fun because it is. You've never heard a show like it because we make the listeners a part of the show every day between noon and 2 p.m. Eastern. You'll hear plenty of the best sports talk, including the latest on the Falcons, the Braves, and more. And who knows, you might even hear you. That's the Rod Peterson Show, daily at noon, right here on WQEE 99.1 FM.
We live in a world now that welcomes and nurtures the screwball in all of us. Hey, it's a new decade, people. Time to get a little nutty. Treat yourself to Screwball Peanut Butter Whiskey, a smooth flavor that combines 2 of America's favorites, peanut butter and American whiskey. So no more social awkwardness. Time to embrace who you truly are. Get out there and make friends. And be sure it starts with Screwball Peanut Butter Whiskey. It's available nearly everywhere. Learn more at screwballwhiskey.com. Infinium Spirits. Please enjoy responsibly.
Hey, sports fans, the Key has a brand new show. Braves Country is coming your way weekdays 3 p.m. Eastern to 5 p.m. Eastern. Drive time on WQEE. Braves Country is a Southern sports talk show with Mac McGee and the Armchair Quarterbacks. We'll be talking the Atlanta Braves and Major League Baseball, along with everything important to sports fans in Braves Country. The SEC, ACC, Big Ten, and the National Football League, and the big sports news of the day. That's Braves Country with Mac McGee and the Armchair Quarterbacks. Weekdays, 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. right here on WQEE, The Key, 99.1 FM, and simulcasting on youtube.com/@Braves Country. You're listening to WQEE, 99.1 FM, The Key in Noonan, Georgia, home of Braves Country with Mac McGee and the Armchair Quarterbacks, weekdays, 3 p.m. Eastern to 5 p.m. Eastern, right here on The Key and youtube.com/Braves Country.
Armchair. You're listening to the Armchair Quarterback Sports Radio, #1 sports station.
Good afternoon, and this is your Armchair Quarterbacks Sports Flash. You've got Monday Night Football, Rams at the Packers. Baker Mayfield is a 7.5-point underdog versus Aaron Rodgers. The over-under 39.5. Your NFL playoff standings look like this as we head towards Week 16 in the NFL. Just 3 weeks left, and the Bills have a 3-game lead on the Dolphins, 4 on the Jets and the Pats. In the AFC North, Bengals now have a 1-game lead over Baltimore. They'll face off final game of the season in Cincinnati. Tennessee Titans have now lost 4 in a row and have just a 1-game lead over the Jacksonville Jaguars, who currently own the tiebreaker. Titans will head to Jacksonville in Week 18. Kansas City clinched their division over the weekend, as well as the Minnesota Vikings and the San Francisco 49ers. In the NFC East, the Eagles' magic number is 1, 3 games left, and they travel to Dallas Saturday afternoon with a chance to clinch. Tampa Bay Buccaneers still lead the division by 1 game, but it's now 3 wide in the turn in second. The Bucks are 6-8. Panthers, Saints, and Falcons all 5-9. Your wild card standings look like this. We'll start in the NFC, where the Cowboys have already locked up a wild card. The last two spots, 6 and 7 seeds, are held by the Giants and Commanders, who are respectively 8-5-1 and 7-6-1 after last night's game. Seahawks and the Lions are both 7-7 and hot on their heels. In the AFC, the Ravens, who are a game out of the AFC North lead, they have the top wild card currently. They're 9-5, with the Chargers and Dolphins both sitting at 8-6. And on the outside looking in, Patriots and Jets tied at 7-7. And that's your Armchair Quarterback Sports Flash. Stay tuned for Braves Country right here on WQEE 99.1 FM, The Key in Noonan, Georgia, simulcasting on youtube.com at Braves Country.
Armchair.
There's something kind of about a kid that's never played baseball.
We have been hoodwinked, bamboozled, and flat out deceived.
Why did you get so drunk?
You got drunk. I'm just really exhausted.
What's in that cup?
Almond Cokes.
Do you have any idea how important this is? We're trying to save the pump. Really? This is what you're doing?
Chief, what do you want to do tonight?
Same thing we do every night. Try to take over the world.
106 miles to Chicago. We got a full tank of gas, half a pack of cigarettes. It's dark, and we're wearing sunglasses. Hit it.
Armchair.
YouTube Live.
Radio station.
The radio station you can call your own. Do you know what listeners like about our station?
I like everything. It's always on my radio.
We never stop the music, except for now, when I talk.
You're listening to Braves Country with Mac McGee and the Armchair Quarterbacks. We're here live weekdays, 3 p.m. Eastern to 5 p.m. Eastern, WQEE 99.1 FM, The Key, and simulcasting on youtube.com/at Braves Country. Your first choice for Southern sports. Good afternoon. I don't know, but I know one thing. You would think if you're going to lay $1 million on the World Cup, you would understand the bet. Drake.
Armchair.
Community Access Channel.
He's the armchair quarterback. He's full of beer and he's full of snacks. The all-American man.
Hey, howdy, hi, and how the hell are you? Welcome to Braves Country here on Armchair Quarterbacks Radio and The Key, as we are coming to you live on a Monday, a big Monday, where there's a lot to digest on what happened over the weekend. And then, of course, you've got a Monday Night Football game that I don't think a lot of people care that much about, but you might have fantasy involved, or you may have just laid some coin on it. Our lock of the day, by the way, is the Rams +9. That number climbed considerably on BetUS, and I couldn't believe it, so I had to jump on it. I don't think either one of those teams are 9 points better than the other. So 9 is the number. When it started at the beginning of the week last week, the line was just 6.5 to 7, depending on the book. So it just climbed and climbed. And if you missed the news about that game, really quick, Sammy Watkins was released this afternoon in front of this game. Not a big deal, not a big surprise. He's only had 13 catches all year long, but it is to be noted, because if you're thinking about player props, or if you're involved in fantasy and whatnot, and you need big games out of guys like Christian Watson, if you need a big game out of maybe some of the, maybe Aaron Jones out of the backfield, it does become relevant. But we've got a lot to get into and a little time to do it, so let's go ahead and dive in. Thank you, Maverick, for sharing that. I just saw that right before we went live. The Padres have signed Seth Lugo of New York Mets fame. He had been their bullpen guy. He'd been back and forth out of the bullpen into the rotation and spot starts. He gets a 2-year, $15 million deal to go to San Diego, and he's going to get an opportunity to compete in the rotation, which is what he has been wanting for quite some time. So he leaves the Mets to go to the Padres. Padres get a little better. I've always liked Lugo. I've always thought he was a solid pitcher, a great guy to have in your bullpen. I'm not sure about him being a starter, but we'll see what happens there. And of course, if it doesn't work out, they would always slide him back in the bullpen. But they have told him that he will be able to compete. And before we get into the NFL, real quick, got to talk about the Dansby Swanson thing. The Dansby Swanson, we haven't been on the air since then. And, of course, it is a big deal to us in Braves country. He'll be sorely missed. Dansby Swanson goes to the Chicago Cubs. If for some reason you missed it over the weekend, 7 years, $177 million. And I wish Dansby well, and I hope he has a great career. But I can totally understand why the Braves and Anthopoulos were not prepared to give, although I believe an elite shortstop. Now, he may not have the bat that some of the other guys with the bigger deals got, but defensively, he's at the top of his game. But he's also not a spring chicken. If you're going to give him a 7-year deal for that kind of money, you're taking a huge risk. And he's hitting the market at the right time, and I get it. I'm a little surprised that he didn't go ahead and stay in Atlanta, because that really isn't a lot more than what Atlanta was giving to him in the grand scheme of things. I think Atlanta would have given him a 5-year deal, would have given him somewhere around the, we'll say, 25 a year range. He's getting a 7-year deal that is essentially a 22, just about 22 range. And I get why the Braves don't want those last 2 years, but at the same token, if he would have signed, we'll just say 5 at a 25 range, 5 for 125, and he was still playing at the top of his game, the Braves would have re-upped him at some point. But it is what it is, and he's gone. And I really think that just reading the tea leaves in the offseason, I really have felt like this whole time that he wasn't coming back. It's becoming old hat to us now, because we went through the same exact thing last year with Freddie Freeman. I'm just glad, for one, that he didn't go to the Dodgers. That's number one. And number two, he's not going to a team that's going to threaten for any kind of a playoff push or a pennant in the near future. Now, the Cubs are building, and they're building in the right way. And when Tones comes on here in a little bit, we'll talk about it. And I do like what they're doing long term. But make no mistake about it, the Cubs are not going to threaten the Cardinals in the Central for the division title. The only team that I think could possibly threaten would be Milwaukee. Of course, we're a long ways away before we start making those predictions. But even with all that put together, and now I really like what they have up the middle. They have Dansby. They have Nico Horner, which, if you're not familiar with him, he played all over the infield, but second base is really the spot for him. And then you've got a pretty good center fielder, defensive center fielder in Cody Bellinger. So up the middle, they are set. There's talks about whether or not they may make a move, and rightfully so, for a catcher, whether that will be in this offseason or in the future offseason. I would challenge them on this. Don't go out and make a bad trade just to get a catcher. And the reason why I say that is because the first person that pops in my mind is McCann of the Mets, who the Mets have been trying to unload. And it seems like it would be the type of thing that a team who's trying to rebuild goes out and gets what used to be a big name, used to be viewed upon as an up-and-coming catcher, and a guy that used to play in Chicago with the White Sox, right? I've watched this guy play for the last couple of years. I have not been impressed at all since he's been in New York. If you're the Cubs, hopefully, or you're a Cubs fan, hopefully that doesn't happen. But there's been a lot of rumors of McCann getting moved, and there's also been a lot of rumors of the Cubs wanting to make a move for a catcher. So that's the only reason why I bring that up. If you're smart, you let the Mets DFA him, and then maybe you pick him up off of waivers. Because the Mets right now have 4 catchers that could possibly be on their roster come opening day. And though none of them, I believe, is at the same level that what the Braves have, they do have the up-and-coming rookie. He only played a few games before the playoffs started in Francisco Alvarez. And he looks like he's ready for the stick. The question is he ready behind the plate? And most experts who have watched him play, who have scouted him, says that he's not even close to it. So you are concerned about that. But other than that, real quick, before we get into the football, you've got Benintendi leaves New York. Of course, he used to be in Boston. He used to be in Kansas City. Benintendi leaves to go to the Chicago White Sox, 5 years, $75 million. Can you believe that is their biggest free agent signing in club history? Meaning someone that came from one club to another. Prior to, I can't remember who it was, but it was 73 was the biggest deal. So the White Sox get what they believe is a valuable left-handed stick in the middle of their lineup. Justin Turner, if you missed this, Justin Turner went to the Red Sox over the weekend, 2 years, 21.7, basically 2 years, 22. I think the Red Sox are getting him on the backside of his career, and I'd be willing to wager that his best days are well behind him. And I'm not really sure what the Red Sox are doing when they let JD Martinez leave on a 1 year, $10 million deal to go to the Dodgers. That happened today. JD Martinez, I think, is on the backside of his career as well, but I think he's got a little more left in the tank than Justin Turner. But anyways, the Red Sox swing for the fences with a Justin Turner signing. Remember, they did add Kenley Jansen, and there are rumors that they could be bringing other players in. It just seems like, and it's very strange to me, considering what the Red Sox have been my entire lifetime of watching the Boston Red Sox. Over the last couple of seasons, they have been clipping coupons in the front office. And it's really strange to watch because they've got the money, and the fan base knows they have the money. And they brought the kid in, Shane Bloom, to run the Red Sox. Remember, he's got the background with the Tampa Bay Rays. And it's like he's trying to piece them together like the Rays. But the difference is, for instance, the Dodgers brought in almost their entire front office a few years back from the Tampa Bay Rays. But the difference was you had an elite front office talent coming over from Tampa Bay. There was 3 guys that actually came over in the same offseason. And they're actually spending money. So it's like they had the ability of all the metrics on hand of the Rays, but they had a big checkbook. The Red Sox are just basically becoming Tampa Bay North. And it's really strange. The Red Sox really have not signed much in the offseason, and that's got to be a concern if you are a Red Sox fan. And that's kind of catches you up on baseball. We'll talk a little bit more when Tones gets to us here in a little bit. But, Michael, I'm glad you put that up on the screen. If you're listening to us on the radio, we also simulcast on YouTube, amongst other places, Facebook, Twitch, and Twitter. And you can join in on the fun if you want to comment. But Michael brings it up. And that New England game, the last play of that New England Raiders game. So I was watching it live in real time, as I think a lot of people were, because it had just got switched over from I believe it was Red Zone I was seeing it from, but maybe it was the Tampa Bay Cincinnati game that had gotten out of hand. Regardless, the game had just flipped over, and I saw the tail end. I saw the tying score. At first of all, the Raiders were dominating the game, and then New England came roaring back, and the Raiders had basically collapsed. And then it gets emphasized by an incredible catch and a very good pass. Very good pass by Derek Carr. An incredible catch by Keelan Cole in the back of the end zone that gets reviewed. And long story short, you've got a tie ball game with only about 10 seconds left in the game. They kick off. The Patriots go to run the ball. And they said they even talked about it in the huddle. We're just going to run this out and go to overtime. And then Stevenson breaks off a pretty decent run, 15, 20 yards, what have you. And right before he gets tackled, he tosses it back to the wide receiver, Jacoby Myers. Okay. But Myers has nowhere to go. And he inexplicably tosses it backwards as if they were losing the game and there was no time on the clock. No, the game was tied. They were going to go to overtime. He tosses it back across the field to his stationary statue of a quarterback in Mac Jones. What is he going to do with it? Right? Except get clobbered. But the ball comes back towards him. It gets intercepted. Now, it is a backward pass, but it's intercepted by the Raiders, and they rumble all the way to the end zone. It is the strangest ending that I have seen in the National Football League since the day before when the Colts blew a 33-0 lead in the second half. Which, by the way, is that not the ghost of Frank Reich coming back to haunt the Colts and Jeff Saturday? If you remember, Reich was also the quarterback in the Buffalo Bills Houston Oilers comeback years ago when it was, 35-3 at the half, and the Bills came roaring back and won the game 41-38, I believe was the final score in that. Very similar. Where the team was up 33-0 in the second half. I had just gotten home. I surprised my wife with a brand new dog, and I had just gotten home with the dog. So I'm dealing with our current dog, and I'm bringing the new dog into the fold. So there's all that excitement from our older dog, who's only a little over a year old. So look, she's a puppy as well. And she's losing her mind because she's got a new friend, right? I didn't think the whole thing out, but I was trying to get it done before my wife got home. And so I come in the door. I had to get groceries because you start realizing, oh my word, I've got to get this, and this for this new puppy because once I get home, I'm stationary. I can't go anywhere because I can't leave the two dogs by themselves. And we didn't have any of our pens and cages with us because she had lent them out to other friends who had puppies, right? So good friend of mine goes with me to get the dog. We get the dog. We come back. There's another funny story in that down the road. We don't have time for it today. But I had just gotten everything put up, trying to keep the two dogs separated as the new ones dribbling all over the floor. So I'm going to have to clean that up. I finally get everything settled down. And I turn on the TVs, and I got home just in time to see the score was 33-0. And I had to do a double take because when I first saw 33, I was like, man, Colts are just terrible. Wait a minute. That's Minnesota. Minnesota's down 33-0. So I actually turned it on to my secondary television, just kept an eye on it. And I locked into the Jackson State UNC Central game because I picked it as my stupid underdog. And I was pleasantly surprised. I'd just gotten home and the score was, I think, 27-26 Central at the time. And for folks that missed that, you missed one heck of a game of the Celebration Bowl, as they call it. And Deion Sanders gets beat in his final game at Jackson State. Heck of a game. He loses to a team that was a 2-touchdown underdog. And I talked last Friday. I thought he had left. I did not know he was coaching the game. So I see that, and I was like, man, I probably shouldn't have made that decision on our stupid underdog, but it worked out anyways. They end up beating Deion. But that was just a phenomenal game. If you haven't seen the clip of Deion going over and consoling I don't know if he was a tight end or a receiver. Anyways, the kid that dropped what could have been the game-winning or game-tying touchdown in the end zone. It was really cool moment. Of course, a lot of people are saying, well, who's recording it? He has people following him with video phones and whatnot 24/7, so that if something comes up, and look, this is a part of his brand. That's what he's going to do in Colorado. If it comes up, something happens that they want to share that's a good moment, they'll share it. Now that's going to get dangerous down the road when you get into Power 5, because if he does something that he shouldn't have done and they gets caught on video, he is relying on his close-knit staff to not throw him under the bus. But you never know who you're getting involved with when you're letting all these people have the access to your video. But anyways, moving on from that, the Colts the Colts look like they were coached by a team that had a head coach that had never coached before. That's exactly what they are, and that's exactly what they look like. You can't hold on to a 33-0 lead with that defense. There's something wrong. And it's going to be even more absurd if Saturday is brought back next year. We're going to take a really quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the biggest loser of the weekend. Was it the Patriots? Was it the Colts? Or was it somebody else? We'll be back in a flash here on Braves Country, WQEE, The Key in Newnan, Georgia.
I got back to the hotel at 7:30 this morning, and I went up to the desk to leave a wake-up call for 7 o'clock. The lady goes, it's past 7. No, the next one. You got another one coming around, don't you? Why don't you just put me on that one?
Tom has been a teacher for over 40 years. One day, I think one of the students had asked the question and he didn't remember the answer. And I also noticed that he was letting his class out earlier than they were supposed to let out. I was really starting to worry.
Levi and I talked about how it would change our lives, but he was there beside me.
When something feels different, it could be Alzheimer's. Now is the time to talk. Visit alz.org/ourstories to learn more. A message from the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
It's the best in sports and entertainment, and get locked in and locked down with Rhino Radio Penitentiary, 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. with your host, me, Ryan O'Neill, each and every morning, right here with the best in sports and entertainment, all the way from professional sports to college sports to River Dragons hockey and everything in between, including some of the very best local and national guests. It's the Rhino Radio Penitentiary, 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. Monday through Friday, right here on 99.1 FM WQEE.
Winter is the perfect time to start planning for your healthy, pest-free spring lawn with True Green, America's #1 lawn care company. True Green's science-based approach and local expertise will help give your lawn the year-round care it needs to be thick and weed-free. Go to truegreen.com/radio to save 50% on your first service. Just call 866-946-5956 or go to truegreen.com today and get a lawn to be proud of.
Hey folks, this is Mark White with The Mark White Show, and you can tune into The Mark White Show every Saturday from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. right here on Rock 99 WQEE The Key, the home of Southern sports and talk.
You're listening to WQEE 99.1 FM, The Key in Noonan, Georgia, home of Braves Country with Mac McGee and the Armchair Quarterbacks, weekdays, 3 p.m. Eastern to 5 p.m. Eastern, right here on The Key and YouTube.com @Braves Country.
What did you do? Wasn't it obvious? I spiked him with muscle relax and plus my ADHD medication.
What? You drunk this again? Look at my face! You ruined my life! You're not my friend.
Don't say that. Are you serious? Even in America?
Yes!
And we're the 3 best friends that anybody could have.
Welcome back. Braves Country here on The Key 99.1 FM and simulcasting wherever you stream. Braves Country HD is pretty much all you need to look up and you'll find us. And a couple of interesting comments. The first one I want to get to, so it goes back to I don't know much, but I know one thing, which we do at the beginning of every show. Usually some smart comment, a snide comment that we have. And Michael here mentions how about that New England last play, which I kind of touched on. I still don't understand what Jacoby Myers was doing. Tossing the ball backwards could only end up in a disaster in a tie ball game with no time left, right? So the other thing is, he mentions that I won my World Cup bet with the draw at the end of regulation. Did you see the story where Drake put $1 million, and I don't know what the line was, $1 million to win what, but he put $1 million. Now, look, I know this guy's made of money and probably didn't face him one bit, but still $1 million is $1 million. He bet $1 million that Argentina would win the World Cup. But what he did not understand in soccer betting, which is one of the reasons why I don't do a lot of soccer betting, because I'm aware of the rules, but I don't like them when it comes to soccer betting. So they're very specific when you go to make a bet. And when you say that you're taking Argentina to win, you would have to be taking them to win in extra time. Overtime, as we call it here, but extra time. Well, what Michael is referring to is that he bet that the game would end in regulation in a draw and have to go to extra time. And then, of course, if anyone caught the game, I just caught the highlights. I kind of forgot it was on. And by the time I realized it was on, I'd already gotten updated what the score was late in the game. I was like, you know what? I haven't been emotionally invested in this. I'm not flipping over now. I was getting ready for football and fantasy football and all that kind of stuff. So kind of spaced on it, though I'd planned on watching it. That just tells you just absolutely asleep at the wheel when I woke up on Sunday and just wanted to get ready for football. And we had friends coming over and we were going to watch the games. And so that had a lot to do with it as well. But Drake, when at the end of the game, when it was all said and done, he thought he had won the $1 million. He had lost it because they didn't win in regulation, it took penalty kicks to win. And that's what you have to be careful with when you're betting soccer in general, but especially FIFA soccer. I've noticed that their lines on most of these sites is very, very specific. And they will flat out tell you that if you don't pick it correctly and very specifically, you're not going to get credit for that W. So it's not like betting American sports where you say, I'm going to bet that the Raiders beat the Patriots, and it wouldn't have mattered if Myers had thrown that ball backwards and gone into if he had not done it in the game, went into overtime, and then the Raiders somehow won in overtime, you'd still get credit for that W. And of course, the reason why they're very specific with it, especially with World Soccer, is most of their games go to extra time. So the bet is really, a lot of the money that is bet on whether or not the game is going to go to extra time. And then, of course, there's a lot of live betting, because then once it goes to extra time, people are jumping on there and saying, I'm going to take team A or team B. But it's unbelievable, $1 million, and didn't understand what he was betting on. Didn't understand what he was betting on. And that is just a strange one. But anyways, back to everything else that is going on in the world of sports. Because I'm sure no one's really all that upset that Drake lost $1 million. He'll probably make that the first leg of his next tour. But back to the rest of the story, as they say. You've got some things starting to unfold in Major League Baseball with the free agency, and we're still little bits away. I'd say we're almost a month away before you can actually unpack what everybody has done and kind of feel like you know where all the teams are, because about a month from now, it's usually about middle of January, is when, and sometimes there's a couple hanging fruit out there, but typically all of your bigger free agents are gone. And everything that is left after that is kind of bolstering your bench, or maybe you're adding something at the front of your bullpen. And I find it interesting. So one thing that happened late last night that I think I guess it was yesterday afternoon, everyone probably slept on because it was during the NFL games. Michael Brantley did go back to the Astros. And I was surprised by that, because everyone had said that Brantley was leaving. And I actually, it seemed like it could have been an opportunity for Atlanta to go all in. But the more and more you look at what the Braves have done and just kind of read the tea leaves, I think their offense is pretty much what they have, unless they can make a trade. I think they're going to platoon at left field. They're going to platoon at shortstop. And they're going to platoon at designated hitter. And everything else is pretty much set up. But when you look at what happened over the weekend of the National Football League, as we kind of shift gears back into football, the Vikings come back on a 33-0 deficit to beat the Colts. And I get that the Colts are terrible, and I get that Matt Ryan is absolutely done. But 33-0 is 33-0 no matter what level of football you're talking about, especially when it's into the second half. Especially when you were gifted 3 touchdowns from defense and special teams. Another collapse that I think a lot of people have kind of snoozed on is that the Dallas Cowboys were beating the Jaguars 17 in the second half and collapsed. And that's a team that a lot of people are talking about could be the Philadelphia Eagles' biggest rival as far as trying to getting out of the NFC and get to the Super Bowl. I don't buy it. I watched that game start to finish. And the Cowboys are a good team. But I really do question how good of in-game management McCarthy has. And I also question, does Dallas have a legitimate secondary receiving threat? And look, I know they've got Noah Brown, who bobbled the ball that caused the pick six, but he also scored a couple of touchdowns. And I get that they've got Michael Gallup, and Schultz is a good tight end. But if they're not able to move the ball on the ground with Pollard and Zeke, and they have to go to the air, if you can double up CeeDee Lamb, you've pretty much shut down the Dallas offense. The other big collapse yesterday, and you may not think of it as being a big collapse if you didn't watch the whole game, but the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were up 17-0 with about a minute left in the second half. They gave up a field goal at the end that was kind of slept on. They come out of the half, and Tampa Bay is forced to punt, and they try some goofy fake punt to the up back, and it appeared that everybody knew that fake punt was coming except for the up back. The guy they were going to use to do the fake punt, he looked totally surprised. I don't know if he missed the play call, didn't understand that ball was going to him, or if he didn't understand the snap count. But there's something wrong when the guy who is the star of the trick play doesn't know the trick play is coming. And after that, it all unraveled. There was at one point when Cincinnati was about to take the lead after being down 20-17 in the 17-3. And if you count the fake punt and a couple of turnovers, they then outscored the Bucs going back to the field goal in the first half, the next four possessions to take the lead, and the Bucs had not crossed midfield. That was an absolute drubbing. It's what we thought the game was going to be, but for whatever reason, it took until the second half to see it. So that was an embarrassment. And then the other one would be Tennessee losing four in a row. Now, it's not so much the game yesterday. That was a hard-fought game. It was actually a pretty good game. And there's a lot of things that went wrong in that game that I can tell you, as battered and banged up and bruised as the Titans are, and the Chargers are as well, they still had a chance to win that game. An unbelievable, terrible play calling in the second half led to that loss. And Todd Downing, who took over for Miller, and when they brought in Downing, I remember seeing his resume and not being very impressed as far as, okay, this is a guy that's going to lead the way. And it's kind of funny because just like his predecessor, who is now taking over for the Falcons, Miller, they rarely remember that they have the most dangerous running back in all the National Football League. And when they were handing it to Henry yesterday, Henry was pounding it down their throat. But there was a situation I specifically remember in that game if you go back to, I believe it was early fourth quarter when the game was still tied 7-7, and the Tennessee had the ball in easy field goal range. I want to say the ball was around the 20 to 25 yard line, somewhere in that neighborhood. And it was third and fairly long. And as opposed to doing the smart thing and getting a few more yards and making sure you get that gimme field goal, they put Tannehill in the shotgun. All heck breaks loose. He gets sacked, and now it's a 50-something yard field goal that Bullock ends up just missing past the uprights. And it's plays like this that always ends up being in the end the reason why you lost the game, because it was 7-7. They kicked that field goal. They go up 10-7. The Chargers would have had to go down, and they would have scored the touchdown to go ahead. But when Tennessee scored that touchdown to go ahead, it would have been to go up 17-14 with a minute left, as opposed to being tied. Not to mention the fact that last possession, when Tennessee was right there at the scoring opportunity, they didn't do a very good job of eating some clock to making sure that when Herbert and company got the ball back, that there wouldn't be an issue. Some news coming in. Okay, that's not news. I apologize. Talking about what Rafael Devers is looking for, a 9-year, 10-year deal. That's expected, yeah. And of course, Tyon signed with the Cubs a while back, and the Cubs have actually done a really good job in the offseason of building a team that I think it could possibly compete for a wild card, maybe. I still think they got some work to do, and they might just be on the edge. But here's the thing. If you're Chicago, if you're Milwaukee, and you don't think you can beat the Cardinals in that division, you also play in a really bad division. So you can pile up a lot of wins against Pirates and Reds and have an advantage over teams like the Braves and the Phillies and the Mets, who are going to be beating up on each other all year. So there's something to be said for that. But all in all, I think the biggest loser in Week 15 has got to be the Cowboys. They had a 17-point lead. And I understand it was on the road. And I understand that the Jaguars have been red hot. But the Colts didn't really lose anything because the Colts weren't going anywhere. And the Bucs didn't really lose anything because the rest of their division keeps losing. So they're going to back their way into the playoffs and get bounced in the first round, but they're going to get in the playoffs. And Tennessee was an underdog on the road to the Chargers. And we haven't gotten to the Washington game yet. We'll get to that in a second. But Washington is still the last seed in the playoffs, so I can't call them a big loser. It's got to be someone who blew it. And though Tampa Bay blew it and the Colts blew it, the Cowboys were the biggest loser. Because now that quote-unquote showdown between the Eagles and the Cowboys on Christmas Eve, still a fun game, and I'm still looking forward to it. Don't get me wrong. But it means a heck of a lot less. Because the Eagles would have to lose every single game here on out. And the Cowboys would have to run the table from here on out. For the Cowboys to beat the Eagles in the NFC East. And the Eagles, though they have to go to Dallas this weekend, they finished the season at home against the Saints. That's a W. And at home against the Giants. And if they need it, that's a W. But if they don't need it, they could very well lose that game because they could be resting everybody. But the first game was against the Giants just a couple of weeks ago, and they beat them 48-22. So that's over. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, I'm going to answer some questions that I see pop up, and we're going to get into the Monday Night Football game, some early lines on that, and talk a little baseball too. Tones is on the way. We're going to be talking the NFC South and everything playoff related. We'll be back in a flash here on Braves Country. Keep it locked in here to the key and Braves Country HD.
If you're arrested for bribery, can't you just bribe your way out? I mean, you're a briber. That's what you do.
Armchair Quarterbacks Radio, living in an era of baseball where the impossible is unfolding right before our eyes.
Salvador Perez, the 2-2. Popped up, Sandoval in foul territory. Giants win! A World Series win for the San Francisco Giants for the third time in the last 5 years. And their hero, Madison Bumgarner. The 1-2 again. Inside corner. The Royals, 2015 World Champion. This is going to be a tough play. Bryant, the Cubs, win the World Series. Bryant makes the play. It's over. And the Cubs have finally won it all.
But the game right now is at the plate.
Armchair.
The Dixie Handle Company, 5 generations of the Strickland family have produced quality hardwood farm and garden tools, wooden shutters, and custom furniture. This small business has been owned and operated since 1992 and ships to customers across the world. If you're looking for the highest quality tool handles, Dixie Handle Company is your place. Every item is hand-picked to your specifications. If it's made of wood, they do it. Call now, 931-722-3395. That's 931-722-3395. Or go online to dixiehandle.com. The Dixie Handle Company. Welcome to Craftsmanship, a proud sponsor of Braves Country Baseball. You're listening to WQEE 99.1 FM, The Key in Noonan, Georgia, home of Braves Country with Mac McGee and the Armchair Quarterbacks, weekdays, 3 p.m. Eastern to 5 p.m. Eastern, right here on The Key and YouTube.com at Braves Country. Welcome back. Trying to get everyone in the Christmas mood. Christmas coming up on, well, it'll be Sunday, but I always think of it starting on Christmas Eve, so Saturday. We always have a big get-together here at the house. Well, not big, but our close friends that live in the area. We all have a few drinks and exchange a few gifts, and for some of us, it's the only time of the year that we see each other, and always look forward to. We started that years ago, and I really like the tradition where it's the friends Christmas type of thing, because obviously Christmas Day, everybody heads to all the relatives' different houses and whatnot. And as we get older, and a lot of them have kids, there's that involved. And, going back and forth. Sometimes they're hosting, sometimes they have to go down, and there's always complaints either way. But we always go and see my wife's family on Christmas. And so my family comes and sees me along with friends on Christmas Eve, and it's always worked out well. So looking forward to that. And we're going to be doing some Christmas stuff later on this week, some Christmas-based stuff. And I'd be curious if anyone wants to put it on social media. Maybe we'll open up the phone lines later on this week. But what would be your Christmas wish? If you got one Christmas wish to add to your team. Now, whether you're a Braves fan or you're not a Braves fan, or maybe you're a bigger football fan and remember something. This Wednesday, big day, is National Signing Day. And it's the early signing period, but it's really turned into the signing day because most of the kids, as I've predicted it would years ago, once you had an opportunity to sign early, most of the big names, even this, I'll put it this way, about 80 to 90% of the kids know where they're going by this coming Wednesday, and they sign their name on the dotted line. Now, some of them, there's always 2 or 3 prima donnas that still want to be courted, and they don't decide, and they're able to do that because your bigger universities are still holding one scholarship here or there for them. But all in all, most of your 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 star, everybody signs by this coming Wednesday it's a 72-hour period, so Wednesday into Friday. And we'll be covering that and reacting to that and getting all the rankings for that. There's a lot of teams throughout the South that are excited about, and of course the transfer portal, but kind of waiting for all that dust to settle before we start reacting to who benefits and who didn't benefit from the from the portal and the recruiting news and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I'd be curious to see. So if you put it in the comments, who you would like to add, especially now that if we have Braves fans out there that are watching and listening. Dansby's gone. And we'll be adding these questions in as the week goes on. So we'll put polls up and whatnot. But now that Dansby's gone, and there's no way of saying, well, I want that on my Christmas list because that's over. If you're a Braves fan, what's the one guy that you would like to see brought in? I mean, to me, honestly, if there was one Christmas wish I would like to have is for them to get out from under the Ozuna contract. The problem is it's dang near impossible. But you look at some of these other guys, and so the question that has been thrown to me, okay, what do you think of this? Anthopoulos goes and gets Duvall and Brandon Drury and DFA's Ozuna. My question would be, why is he getting both? Because he still has Rosario. And they're not just going to throw Rosario away. And this is assuming that you could do anything with Ozuna. I don't see the Braves DFAing a guy unless he gets in trouble again and gives them a solid reason again, who's making $32 million over the next 2 years. This isn't a poverty franchise, but it's also not a franchise that spends wildly. And I think before they ever thought about DFAing Ozuna, because if you go out there and get Duvall and you get Drury, you're putting yourself over that threshold. Unless you can get someone else to take Ozuna's contract, which you're not going to be able to do. So that's the kind of stuff that the problem with assuming that the Braves could just eat the contract is that they're not just adding their salaries, they're going to get taxed on them because it's going to send them over the threshold. And that's the big problem. So I think if anything were to happen, they would bring back one. And because of the familiarity and because of his ability to play all over the place, I'd say that Duvall's the most likely be the one that brought in. And remember, you could always make a move at the deadline. Just because your team looks like A on opening day does not mean it won't look like B, C, or D on, I'm not sure the exact date this year, but it used to always be July 31st. But you catch my drift, the first week of August. They've changed it in the collective bargaining agreement where they're allowed to, if I'm looking at this, My guess is this year trade deadline is going to be somewhere. Last year they did it on a Tuesday, so they might do it on a Tuesday again on August 1st. All right, we've got to take a quick break. When we come back, we are going to welcome in Tones, and we're going to dive into the AFC South, the NFC South, the NFL playoffs, and react because we got a Cubs fan joining us and in his excitement with getting a Dansby Swanson edition. But is he happy with 7 years, 177? We'll be back in a flash. Keep it locked in here on the Key, Braves Country, taking you all the way to 5 p.m. Eastern.
Hyperbole is done. Now we can finally play the game.
Armchair.
You're listening to the Armchair Quarterback Sports Radio, #1 sports station.
Good afternoon, and this is your Armchair Quarterbacks Sports Flash. You've got Monday Night Football, Rams at the Packers. Baker Mayfield is a 7.5-point underdog versus Aaron Rodgers. The over-under 39.5. Your NFL playoff standings look like this as we head towards Week 16 in the NFL. Just 3 weeks left, and the Bills have a 3-game lead on the Dolphins, 4 on the Jets and the Pats. In the AFC North, Bengals now have a 1-game lead over Baltimore. They'll face off final game of the season in Cincinnati. Tennessee Titans have now lost 4 in a row and have just a 1-game lead over the Jacksonville Jaguars, who currently own the tiebreaker. Titans will head to Jacksonville in Week 18. Kansas City clinched their division over the weekend, as well as the Minnesota Vikings and the San Francisco 49ers. In the NFC East, the Eagles' magic number is 1. 3 games left, and they travel to Dallas Saturday afternoon with a chance to clinch. Tampa Bay Buccaneers still lead the division by 1 game, but it's now 3 wide in the turn in second. The Bucs are 6-8, Panthers, Saints, and Falcons all 5-9. Your wildcard standings look like this. We'll start in the NFC, where the Cowboys have already locked up a wild card. The last 2 spots, 6 and 7 seeds, are held by the Giants and Commanders, who are respectively 8-5-1 and 7-6-1 after last night's game. Seahawks and the Lions are both 7-7 and hot on their heels. In the AFC, the Ravens, who are a game out of the AFC North lead, they have the top wild card currently. They're 9-5, with the Chargers and Dolphins both sitting at 8-6. And on the outside looking in, Patriots and Jets tied at 7-7. And that's your Armchair Quarterback Sports Flash. Stay tuned for Braves Country right here on WQEE 99.1 FM, The Key in Noonan, Georgia, simulcasting on youtube.com at Braves Country. You're listening to WQEE 99.1 FM, The Key in Noonan, Georgia.
It's time to live, laugh, and create memories again with MSC Cruises. Join us on some of the world's most modern and innovative ships. Discover again at our new private island, Ocean Key MSC Marine Reserve, named Best New Cruise Destination. Cruise the Caribbean and Bahamas from Miami or Port Canaveral. Book now with free balcony upgrades and flexible booking changes. Call your travel advisor or visit msccruises.com. Restrictions apply. MSC Cruises, a world of discovery.
Dixie Handle Company, 5 generations of the Strickland family have produced quality hardwood farm and garden tools, wooden shutters, and custom furniture. This small business has been owned and operated since 1992 and ships to customers across the world. If you're looking for the highest quality tool handles, Dixie Handle Company is your place. Every item is hand-picked to your specifications. If it's made of wood, they do it. Call now, 931-722-3395. That's 931-722-3395. Or go online to DixieHandle.com. The Dixie Handle Company. Welcome to Craftsmanship, a proud sponsor of Braves Country Baseball.
Are you looking for a reliable dental practice that not only cares about your teeth, but is friendly to work with? How about one that offers great deals and new patient promotions? Well, your search is over. Most Valuable Smiles in downtown Eatonton, Georgia is committed to giving you the biggest and brightest smile. Right now, get a $99 new patient special, including x-rays and exam. Maybe you're looking for veneers. Most Valuable Smiles veneer special includes one free veneer with every 5 purchased. Or get that bright white smile you've always wanted by taking advantage of an exclusive $100 off Zoom whitening treatment when you book today. And don't forget that 2022 is almost over. That means most insurance policies will reset by the new year, and to avoid losing that extra money, you need to use it or lose it. Book an appointment today with Most Valuable Smiles in downtown Eatonton to lock in these exclusive deals. Call 706-623-0318 or visit mostvaluablesmiles.com.
Hey, sports fans. Weekdays, 3 p.m. Eastern to 5 p.m. Eastern. Drive time on WQEE. Braves Country is a Southern sports talk show with Mac McGee and the Armchair Quarterbacks. That's Braves Country with Mac McGee and the Armchair Quarterbacks. Weekdays, 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. right here on WQEE 99.1 FM.
Let's go out there. Let's cut the regular season back to 10 games. And you can have some well-placed off weeks. You can have an NIT in between to fill in the blanks. And let's have a 64-team playoff. The champion will play 16 games. And see this guy. I'm not off the mark here. You're off the mark. Everybody else does it this way.
Well, if you stand and block the screen, you may just lose your life. And that goes for all 30 friends and 30 friends' wives. Because he's the armchair quarterback. He's full of beer and he's full of snacks.
Welcome back. Chugging our way to the top of the 5 o'clock hour. Get ready for Monday Night Football. Quick update on a really boring bowl game that I haven't even brought up because who cares? Marshall is killing UConn 21-0 as they're heading towards halftime. I saw this game today. The gambler in me couldn't even put $5 on it to care. I was like, ugh, do I really even care? Marshall, by the way, was a 12-point favorite. So instead, did my lock of the day, did Monday Night Football, taking the Rams +9, which I think is I get that the Rams are not that good, but neither are the Packers. And if Baker Mayfield can pull off a W 48 hours after he gets off the plane, you give him an actual. So what has he had? 11 days now in between last Thursday and Monday Night Football. I feel like that they can put together a good enough game plan to stay close. And they're still the defending Super Bowl champion. So they still have somewhat of a roster. So I don't understand why it went up that much to 9, but the way I look at it, I'm not real concerned about this game staying as close as it probably will, because I think they'll both play it close to the vest, and I think both teams will kind of muck it out, and you'll get a game. I thought about hitting the over-under. The over-under right now is around 39. It's a little too high for me when you've gotten the inconsistent offensive play. And if it's a game that I think is going to be plodding around, then why not take the 9 points and let's go? So there you have that. And we go on to what should be. Now, I will say this. There has been two disparities. In one book, I saw the line only 7.5, 7. If you can get it at that and tease it down, then I like the Packers to win at home. But if you're just going to do the straight up line by itself, you gotta go Rams. All right, Tones is joining us here in a second. He's having some technical difficulties, but he has texted me, and he's going to be on his way here in just a minute. He's always running from his day job to get here, so that's why there's always the little bit of a delay. But we get into what's going on in the world of football. And if you watch that Falcons game, and I watched a good portion of it, Desmond Ridder looked like what you thought Desmond Ridder would. He looked like what a third-round rookie who got his first start in the NFL would look like. Inconsistent. The team actually did a really good job of keeping that game a lot closer than I thought it would be. Once I saw a couple other things break out, and look, hey, give credit where credit's due. The Falcons went into a hostile environment, lost by 3. The spread was 4. So if you took the Falcons, like I did on our 6-pack, you covered the spread. But I was hoping they would actually have a chance of pulling off the upset. And you look at what Ridder did in his first ever game. He was 13 of 26 for 97 yards. He did not turn it over. No interceptions. But 50% from the field and only 97 yards passing. That's not going to get it done, obviously. He was sacked 4 times. So kind of deer in the headlights kind of thing going on. You got to love what you got out of the rookie Algier, because he 17 rushes for 139 yards. Looks like he is taking over in that backfield going forward. Patterson still added 52. They had 231 yards on the ground, including Ridder scrambling for 38 yards. Drake London had a nice outing, 7 catches for 70, but the rest of the offense was pretty much non-existent. And you hope that they can build from this. Let's be honest. Now at 5-9, and though they're only a game out of first place, it's going to take a modern-day miracle to win the division. Because now if you look at the Falcons and you look at their schedule coming up, they go to Baltimore this weekend on Christmas Eve. Ritter's in for a long day up there. If somehow they can pull that off, they do get the Cardinals, who are really bad in their own right, at home. And whether or not they can beat the Bucs, you would at least get a fun matchup of Bucs in Atlanta to play the Falcons for the division title. So that's a lot of fun to kind of mull around. And if you get that opportunity to have a meaningful game in week 18 in your building, that would be a big deal. But it all has to start this weekend. They're going to have to pull off, like I said, it's going to be a minor miracle. They really needed to win. They really needed to win the last 2 weeks, but one of the last 2 weeks to be flat-footed, because the problem is you look at the Bucs schedule and they can't end up in a tie with the Bucs, because the Bucs are going to get that tiebreaker, even if they beat Tampa. You look at the Bucs schedule and they're playing the lowly Cardinals, their own right. They come home against the Panthers, and then they're at Atlanta. And I'm not even going to worry about talking about the Saints, because I don't think the Saints have a real opportunity. I can't take them seriously. Andy Dalton and that offense just doesn't go. The defense is playing very well, but they've got to go to Philadelphia next weekend. They're going to have to play Carolina to finish the year. I don't think they win either one of those games, so I'm eliminating the Saints already. But you look at where the Panthers are, and this is the real chance that I think the Panthers could shock the world, because they get the Lions at home, and the Lions have got to be worn down. 2 games back-to-back on the road, and one of them is on a short week. I know the Lions have been red hot. They've won 6 out of the last 7, but the Panthers were going to grab somebody. It would be this weekend. At home, Christmas Eve against the Lions on that terrible defense. They find a way to move the ball. That the Panthers defense has been playing pretty well all year long. They've got a chance. And if they can pull off that upset, it doesn't matter what the Bucs do. The following weekend, that game would be for supremacy in the division. And if they were to go in and sneak in a W in Tampa, then everything would be on the line for Carolina to win the division in week 18, though it's in New Orleans. It's against New Orleans. And I do think Carolina could find a way, but a lot of this is going to come down to what Tampa does. Tampa's still in the driver's seat, though they looked awful yesterday. They're still in the driver's seat. It's just, it happens to be a terrible division. And you look at what that'll mean going forward. I just feel like that if Tampa Bay does make the playoffs, or whoever makes the playoffs, but let's just say it's Tampa Bay, even if it were Carolina, I don't think either one of those teams has what it takes to get out of the first round. And right now, if the playoffs started right now in the NFC, the Buccaneers or the winner of the NFC South would host the Dallas Cowboys and get their doors blown off. And there's really no way to maneuver that out because the division winner is going to be the number 4 seed in the NFC South. Because San Francisco has 4 losses, Minnesota 3, Philly 1, and those are going to be the 3 teams that are going to win their divisions. You're not catching them. There's only 3 weeks left. So with all that being said, you have the 4 seed. You're going to probably face the Cowboys because the Cowboys, it's very unlikely that the Cowboys get caught. Now, if they lose this weekend, they'll be 10-5. And if the Giants were to win, the Giants would be a half game behind Dallas. But I just feel like that the Giants don't have it in them to make some 3-game run to win out their season. They'll be fortunate to get into the playoffs. And if you missed that game last night, the Giants-Washington game, Lord have mercy what was going on with the refs. According to the receiver McLaurin of Washington, if you saw the game, the final, heck, all you'd have to see the final few plays to understand what I'm talking about. Giants are up by 8. It's 20-12. Less than 2 minutes left. Washington has no timeouts, so they have to go for it no matter what. And on it's either 2nd and goal or 3rd and goal, Washington runs into the end zone for a touchdown. There's a flag. And what they said was that illegal formation, and it was the classic both tackles weren't covered. And if you look back, you see the McLaurin is about a good 1.5 yards off the ball. And rightfully so, he was flagged. But what his complaint is, and it's a valid complaint, as Tones is joining us right now, it's a valid complaint, is that he's saying that the line judge motioned to him that he was on the line, and so he was surprised by the flag, and he claims that all game long he was in communication with the line judges, and he would ask, "Am I on the line?" and they'd either point up and point down, and he claims that the line judge says that he's okay, everything's okay, it's good to go. And if you go back and watch the video like I did several times, what it really appears like is that he's asking if he's on the line, and the line judge is not giving an okay. He's giving a point to basically this is where you need to be, and he never moved, and that's why he threw the flag. Joining us on the show is Mr. Tones, Tampa Tones. How are you after licking the wounds after that brutal beating from Cincinnati? I don't hear you, Tones. Tones, are you with us? All right, Tones is having some...
Am I good now?
You are good now. Yes, sir.
Sorry about that. I'm playing like the Bucks yesterday. I'm running a little late. I'm unplugged on the mic a little bit. You know, I thought things were running good this morning, and they happened to fall apart.
The exact opposite, and that this in the as opposed to the Bucks, you play well in the second half, right?
Yeah. Let's hope it was a bad first quarter instead of a bad second half for my performance today. But honestly, yesterday's game, disappointing, and that's been the synopsis of the Bucks season so far. Good at times and brutally disgusting at others. And the end of that game was nothing more than a crap show, and you know, bad coaching leads to that. So, and when you turn the ball over like Brady did, when you don't execute those fake punts like the Bucks didn't take advantage of doing, things get ugly quick, and that's what happened yesterday. They turned the ball over 4 times within their own 30, 40-yard line. That's just unacceptable ways to win football.
Yeah, you can pretty much sum up the NFC South and the AFC South with pretty much saying Colts sucks, Titans suck, Texans suck. You see where I'm going with this? Tampa Bay, Atlanta, Carolina, New Orleans, they all suck. But the Jaguars are actually catching fire.
And Trevor Lawrence looks great. It's one of those deals where Halloween hit and the Jaguars were looking like the old Jaguars. Are they going to be competitive or what? All of a sudden, it's December 19th. Like you said earlier, they control their own destiny, and Trevor Lawrence is playing some great football.
One of the more interesting things that I've seen in this entire thing is the maturation of Trevor Lawrence. And what you know what comes down to me that I think has gone on? You know how a lot of times the rookie quarterback starts to really look like an NFL quarterback at the end of his rookie year?
Mm-hmm.
Well, his rookie year was with Urban Meyer. And you could almost throw it away. And that's why it's taken him a season and a half to get where most rookie quarterbacks are in about 12 to 15 games. Because he is light years in front of where he was. And I'm impressed. I'm also kind of looking at the Cowboys like, dude, what are you doing, man? You're up 17 points and you let them come back. You absolutely let them come back.
And the Cowboys had their opportunities in that game to really take control of that game. And then they started turning the ball over. McCarthy started, unraveling coaching a little bit. And next thing you know, Trevor Lawrence hit Zay Jones. And then next thing you know, he hit Zay Jones again. Next thing you know, he hit Zay Jones again. That guy's had an incredible season as well, Zay Jones. So Jags are getting contributions from a lot of places they didn't last year. And as you alluded to, I think the Urban Meyer factor is a big one.
And so now you go into the last 3 weeks and you turn around, and Tone's being a big Tampa Bay guy. You're kind of where you were last week at this point. You didn't gain any ground. You didn't lose any ground. I guess technically you lost a little ground to New Orleans because now it's 3 wide at the bottom of the division. They're all 1 game behind Tampa. So now you look at a situation where if Tampa doesn't start winning a game or 2 here, when everyone meets at the bottom of the schedule in week 18, someone's got to win in week 18 when Carolina and the Saints collide. So you don't want it to come down to that. And I would venture to say that this upcoming game with Arizona is as big as it's been all year. Because let's be honest, Arizona is not a good football team at this point.
No, and Colt McCoy got hurt yesterday too.
Arizona's going to be rough. I get it that it's Christmas, and look, they're the home team, and that gives you somewhat of an advantage. But if they can't go into Arizona and beat Arizona, I mean, do you even want to make the playoffs?
If you go into Arizona and you can't beat Arizona, sure, I still would want to make the playoffs, but Todd Bowles has to go then one way or another.
I would almost be rooting for my team to lose out so I get a good draft pick, because I'd be like, hey, we're definitely not good enough, and this is going the wrong way. Because right now, whoever wins the NFC South is going to get their doors blown off by Dallas.
Yeah, the only hope I would have, or at least some type of hope I would have for the Bucs, is if they go on a 3-game win streak, they end up 9-8 over 500. And even though you're playing, Arizona, Carolina, Atlanta in that order, it's still nice if you win 3 in a row, you're over 500 heading into the playoffs. To me, what it'll take for the Bucs, they got to beat Arizona, then they got to split between Carolina and Atlanta, and that should get them the division.
Definitely.
Unless Carolina goes 3-0 and beats us. But other than that, we'll see.
If you win 2 of your next 3, like you said, as long as Carolina doesn't run the table, you'll be fine. If you win 2 of your next 3, though, see your division record as opposed to Carolina's 3-1 in their division too. Okay. So yeah, that would be the only way you could lose it, is if Carolina ties you and wins the head-to-head.
Correct. Because right now we own it over Atlanta. Now the other option would be if we lost 3 and Atlanta wins 3. We're pretty decent on the Saints, barring something tragic there, but they are still in it since they did win yesterday. So it is crazy right now. You got teams at 5 and 6 wins, all talking about the playoffs come mid-December. This unfamiliar territory for the NFC South. But hey, one point in time it did happen. Carolina went 7-8-1 and won the NFC South. Went on to win 1 playoff game. Then they did get eliminated.
That will not happen this year. We're going to be back in a flash. When we come back, we're going to talk about Dansby Swanson to the Cubs, what that means for the Cubs rebuilding, and what it means with the Braves, as well as tackling the NFL playoff chase as we're creeping towards the 5 o'clock hour and getting even closer to week 16 of the NFL season. We'll be back in a flash. Keep it locked in here on Braves Country HD and WQEE The Key, Noonan, Georgia.
Why do you keep your mouth shut? I'm not taking off my clothes today. I'm styling and profiling. You just be glad I'm here looking the way I look.
Armchair.
That's the sound of NyQuil Severe hard at work. NyQuil Severe is the best sleep with a cold medicine. No tossing and turning, just rest and recovery. So you're ready to take on tomorrow. For powerful relief of your worst cold and flu symptoms, try NyQuil Severe. The nighttime sniffling, sneezing, coughing, aching, stuffy head, best sleep with a cold medicine. Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
Hey, Braves fans, the Armchair Quarterbacks YouTube channel are bringing you Braves Baseball all season long. Hi, I'm Mac McGee, and I'll be bringing you Braves Baseball play-by-play for the Braves fans out there, for all of Braves Country. So pull up an armchair and join us for Braves Country Baseball, first pitch to last pitch, Tuesday and Friday nights, right here on the Armchair Quarterbacks YouTube channel.
Hey, sports fans, it's Rod Peterson here, host of The Rod Peterson Show, inviting you to join us daily for 2 hours of Atlanta's funnest sports talk right here on WQEE. I say fun because it is. You've never heard a show like it because we make the listeners a part of the show every day between noon and 2 p.m. Eastern. You'll hear plenty of the best sports talk, including the latest on the Falcons, the Braves, and more. And who knows, you might even hear you. That's the Rod Peterson Show, daily at noon, right here on WQEE 99.1 FM.
This helpful instructional message from the National Association of People Who Have Trouble Walking and Chewing Gum at the Same Time. Step, chew. Step, chew. Step, chew. Step, chew.
Welcome back to Braves Country. Mac McGee and the Armchair Quarterbacks, weekdays, 3 to 5 p.m., drive time on WQEE. Getting that shopping done, riding around listening to the key, elbowing people in Walmart, wherever you're at, or if you're doing it smart and you're just hiding in the driveway listening to the show and doing all your Christmas shopping by clicking on different apps and say, just mail it to me.
Nowadays, that's the way to go. And, I'm pretty much done. I'm glad to say I am pretty much done with my shopping, so I don't need to elbow anyone. I do need some brown bags, though, the way the Bucks are playing, to maybe put one of those over my head.
Well, I shared a little bit of the story earlier last hour, but I got a big part of my shopping done on Saturday for my wife, and she already knows, so this isn't going to do you a spoiler. We are keeping it from her family, but I know her family doesn't like sports, so I don't have to worry about them, tuning in. Watch, this will be the one time. We're gonna show up to their house on Christmas where all the family comes, and the big surprise is we've got a new puppy that I went out and got on Saturday.
Woo!
And she is kind of getting along with our current puppy. I'll just put it that way. We've only had, so I went and got her Saturday. This morning, I hear my wife say, as she's getting ready for work, she goes, "Oh, finally I got a good night's sleep." They're finally calming down. I said, you know she's been here like 2 days, right? Finally. What is this finally we're speak of?
Lot of nights left in front of you.
Yeah, it's a big fur ball is what she is. She's looks like she might have a little German Shepherd in her, but also something, I don't know, on the paperwork it said Shepherd mix. So I think it's going to be a shorter version of her German Shepherd.
Well, congrats. Do you have a name for the pup yet?
Yeah, Tally.
I like that.
She actually chose it, which I know most folks will think that I chose it, but Tally after Tallahassee. So Tally May.
I like that. Now you got Cookie and Tally, right?
That's right. And I'm done for dogs for a while because I'm not going to have more than 2. And this one, we think we're having allergy problems, but we ordered some stuff, and I think it's going to clear it up.
2 fur balls in the house, more fun, but more furs. So, you expect that. But that's awesome, man. That's awesome.
If anyone has any suggestions on what you should take for dog allergies, because she's never had a dog allergy. I'll have some, but normally I get used to it after a hot minute. So that's why I figured will happen with this dog. But it was pretty bad the first night or two. But anyways, we'll see how it goes. But I've been taking some Zyrtec and stuff like that, but that's not really designed for that. Found something else that has good ratings. We'll see what happens.
Hey, as long as it gets the job done, that's all that matters.
Right. So we'll see what happens. And with my luck, I probably just, as opposed, because you don't really know what you've adopted when you go through the rescue centers, right? Because they don't know what they've brought over to you. And with my luck, because I wanted a fairly, shorter dog, smaller dog. And I told my wife, I said, that thing's looking more and more like Chewbacca to me, man. I feel like we'll wake up one day and realize I adopted a Clydesdale. But we'll see what happens. But yeah, we'll move on from that. But
we do have some news on Jalen Hurts. It looks like he's in line to miss the next 2 games with a sprained shoulder.
Oh, fantasy
for the
football.
playoffs.
Playoffs? I'm just trying to win a game.
Same here. I'm scratching and clawing tonight.
I had a terrible week. I'm in the semis in one of of the leagues that we all play in, and I'm in the finals, and it's a 2-week final in another. But in the other 3 or 4, done. And
I got buzzsawed.
I got cute in one of the leagues because I was looking at the weather and all that stuff, and I shouldn't have done it. And I've never done it, but that team was so bad all year that I was just like trying to throw darts at the wall, and it cost me. There is one other league that I need like 45 points, something ridiculous out of Christian Watson and I. So the way our scoring goes, if he goes out and gets like, let's say 200 yards and 3 touchdowns, winner, chicken dinner, but I don't think that's going to happen.
Hey, you never know the way he's been playing. I will say this, so I did the same as you. I never look at weather and overanalyze. In one of my leagues, I took Waddle out for Leonard Fournette because I'm like, at least, yeah.
I did.
It hurt me.
Because, but then again, did you do it because that team sucks? And you were just trying to get extra points somewhere?
Correct. That team was like, my team was 500 going into the playoffs.
My team was below 500. And I was like, dude, this team has been terrible all year. Let's go. And I put Olave in. And what was the other one? There was 2 things that I did on the same team. And I remember Waddle was one. I don't remember what the other was. And I wake up Sunday morning to Waddle went off. And I'm like, of course he did. Like the game kicked off. I didn't stay up for the entire game. I watched the recap when I got. But the game kicks off and you're looking at the field and you're like, where's all this snow they're talking about? Where's the wind? Like there was no wind in that stadium. And that was the only reason. I didn't even care about the snow. I care about the wind.
It's like the NFL overhyped the weather conditions so people would tune in more or something because
that's what they did.
As you alluded to, they talked up the snow, they talked up the wind, they made it seem like one of those games that was almost not even going to be playable.
And they're in cahoots with the weather apps because the weather apps all had wind of anywhere. When I looked it up all day long, it was anywhere between 15 to 25 mile an hour winds. And I was like, I don't want a passing game with Tua, who's been very accurate, but he doesn't have a strong arm. He's going against the wind. That just all I could think of was that game that you and I did last year where the Patriots went in there and didn't throw. They threw one pass all game long. I was like, that's what I'm going to be looking at. I'm going to be looking at bubble screens and other junk like that. And all of a sudden, they're just going up and down the field. Zip, 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 zip. And to top it off, I took the under. And that goes zip, 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 zip. Oh, I was ticked.
They really fooled people, as you alluded to. I thought it was going to be like Bills Patriots last year, Bills Colts from 2017 when you could barely run and move on the field because there's so much snow. Here, I took Waddle out, and he got about 20, I think. So we'll see. I need 4 points out of the Packers defense.
Because of that, going into yesterday, and the game started off kind of wonky. I'm going to tell you right now, I plowed through some Miller Lite. I woke up this morning, I was like, man, I had a better time than I realized I did. Good friend of mine came over and we were watching at the house. I don't have to worry about, going anywhere or anything like that. But my wife also went, one of her good friends, his wife, treated her to like a day at the spa as, for her recent birthday gift. Right. So it was cool because she went and they did that and they enjoyed that. But then he came over and we watched football. And so we were like, man, this is awesome. We do this every year.
Get her more of those gifts. Come on, honey.
Yeah. And then, the first quarter of the second game window, so a buddy of mine had just left, and I wake up as I kind of dozed off. We were outside. I kind of dozed off, and both the dogs are in my lap, just zonking asleep, and I'm asleep. And I'm like, man, my wife would have walked in right now. She that picture would have been on social media so fast my head would have spun. I was like, y'all need to get up and start moving around or something. We can't be acting like this is all we've done all day.
That's too good.
And I wake up just in time to see the collapse of Brady. I'm like, what in the world? I could not believe it. And I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place because I have a long-term. I took the Bengals to win the division, but also took the Bucs to win the division. a while back because it's a part of a parlay, and almost the rest of it's already sewn up. But I'm waiting for the Bucks and the Titans have to pull off division wins. Everything else is pretty much sewn up.
Hey, well, it sounds like you got a good chance there. As long as the Bucks and the Titans don't shoot themselves in the foot, I think you should be okay. Although Jacksonville's hot, I still like your chances.
I think the Bucks will win their division. I'm not positive about the Titans because whether folks realize it or not, Jacksonville woke up this morning with they control their own destiny.
Mm-hmm.
If they beat Tennessee for a second time, which the game is in Jacksonville to end the season, they would have the tiebreaker against the Titans. Tennessee plays Houston this week. That's a bonus for Tennessee. But Jacksonville plays the Jets, and it'll probably be Zach Wilson again.
Mm-hmm.
So even Steven. And you go to the last weekend, or the second last weekend, Tennessee has to play the Cowboys. Cowboys have something on the line that would concern me.
Yeah, and the Jaguars, like you alluded to, they got the Jets and then the Titans, and they got the Texans sandwiched in between there. So you figure they're at least going to win that Texans game. And, you know, probably if it's against Zach Wilson too, you like their chances there. At least it's in New York, though. So even though it is Zach Wilson, you know, Thursday Night Football will be doing that game. You never know. Short week of rest for the Jaguars.
That's going to be a good game, an exciting game. Yeah, we'll have the call here on Braves Country HD. I'm not sure if the Key's carrying it or not yet. We haven't gotten that far in the conversation, but we will have it on Braves Country HD. And that game, man, I really hope Mike White can play because I think that would be a fun shootout. If Zach Wilson plays, they're going to plot it along. The Jets will probably play very close to the vest, and it won't be quite. It'll still be. I think regardless, it's going to be a close game. But if Mike White plays, it could be a high scoring shootout. If Wilson plays, I'm thinking the total is going to be around 40.
Mm-hmm. And if Mike White would have played yesterday, I think that over would have hit easily. But like you said, the game plan changes. You've seen the Lions adjust their game plan because the Jets were running it more, and that's what happened. So I do hope for Mike White to play Thursday, but it'll be fun regardless. We'll make it a good time.
When you look at Dansby Swanson going to Chicago, and you being a Cubs fan, of course, I'm a Braves guy. And I mentioned this earlier in the show. I said goodbye to Dansby 3-4 weeks ago. Mm-hmm. I felt like if he didn't get signed fairly early in the offseason, it wasn't happening. Because that meant that he was holding out for the most years he could find. And that's not the Braves' MO. They don't sign aging infielders, especially guys at shortstop, to a 7-year deal. It's just not going to happen. Because if you did that, it would counter everything the Anthopoulos has just done, which is stay youthful and stay good. Mm-hmm. That's a really good way to build yourself into a hole. I think the Cubs are in a different situation where they're trying to start to build a nucleus, and they wanted a veteran presence and a guy who's elite defender. You can argue back and forth about his bat. I've always thought that he had a very clutch bat and he has a very good approach at the plate. But if you look at his actual numbers, they're not impressive because he does go through parts of the season and just get ready for it, Cubs fans. That'll drive you nuts because he won't be able to hit water if he fell out of a boat. But then there's other times where he's going to be coming up and in a 2 or 3 week span will come up with 3 or 4 big hits that essentially win you the game. And I think he can keep the Cubs competitive this year. I don't think that they're going to compete for the division. But now there's 3 wild cards, and I mean, all you're trying to do is sneak into the dance. And in that division, it is a terrible division. Mm-hmm. And they should be able to feast against the Pirates and the Reds. If you can play about 500 against the Cardinals and the Brewers, but just dominate I think what Cubs fans understand is that those Cubs-Reds games are going to be huge. Those Cubs-Pirates games are going to be huge because if they could dominate them and not muddle around like a lot of teams do when they kind of play down to their competition, the Cubs could make a serious run at a wild card. What say you?
I totally agree with you on everything you just said. I think that this move was expected by Braves fans. I mean, last week when the Sean Murphy trade happened, a lot of people thought a shortstop might be involved in that trade from the Braves front. So I think that right there, that tells you that Dansby really wasn't in the plans to come back. And I think the Braves stand right by doing that. But at the same time, I do think it's a good move for the Cubs. I actually like Dansby Swanson a lot. He was one of my favorite dudes on the Braves and watching that team. And as you alluded to, he is streaky. We've seen that in the World Series. I think he batted around 200 in the World Series, but he did have 2 homers in the World Series. So, you know, you see his up and down bat there. He is still young enough where I don't mind 7 years. 10 years would have been too much for me. I will say 7 years for around a little north of 25 million a year was great. And I think that you mentioned it yourself. They are in contention to maybe back their way in a wild card, or if they play good enough, contend for the division. Because now that you bring in Jameson Taillon, you have him and Stroman with a lot of young pitchers up and coming, like a Hayden Wiesenski, like a Justin Steele type, like a Keegan Thompson type. And then you bring in veterans like Adrian Sampson back. You're probably going to bring Drew Smyly back. You still have Kyle Hendricks. So they're piecing together a decent enough rotation. They brought in Cody Bellinger as well. Last year they brought in Saya Suzuki, and they brought in Brad Boxberger as well this offseason. So they've been making moves here and there. They have young guys on the way. I think they have 6 or 7 top 100 prospects in all of baseball now, rebuilding that system. All they really need to do, and this won't solidify them as a great team by any means, but if they had a closer, I know Boxberger's closed in years past. I view him more as a setup now, though. But if you could somehow convince, not saying he's great anymore by any means, but a guy like Kimbrel to come sign for cheap and then sign a veteran backup catcher like a Tucker Barnhart or a Kurt Caselli, I think that's a really good offseason for this Cubs. And I do think that between Bellinger, Swanson, and Taillon alone, those were the right steps to building a nucleus and getting back to the postseason, which Chicago fans have become all too familiar with for a product like last year to be repetitive on the field year by year. So I'm a fan of the Swanson move, and he was my second favorite shortstop behind Trey Turner in free agency. I love the other guys, but when you look at the years and the money and how available Swanson is, he's only missed 2 games of baseball in the last 2 years combined. Availability is key with these shortstops. That's why I love Dansby. He's durable. He could provide the glove, and he could provide the speed and power sometimes. Like you said, a little inconsistent with the stick, but overall, I think it's the best thing the Cubs could have done outside of landing a Trey Turner.
Yeah, and you know, the thing about Trey Turner, okay, so Dansby's going to be old enough as it is. He's going to be 36, 37 at the end of this deal. Turner is going to be 40. So, and here's the other thing. In 5 years, if you're not competitive, something's gone wrong. There is an opportunity to possibly trade him at the very back end of this deal. If I'm the Cubs, in some ways, I think it would have been smarter to up the AAV and drop the years. But anyways, that's where Dansby is heading, and I know Braves fans, a lot of them are freaking out. When you got the initial reports just days after the regular or the World Series that Wash was going to be working out, let's say 3 or 4 times that he had planned to work out with Grissom, and then they initially come back with all these rave reviews, that's when I knew Dansby was gone. Because whether those reviews are true or not, that's what they're selling to the public.
And I like Grissom a lot, and you know, there's plenty of reasons why the Braves should as well. And I think that like you said, that's key. You don't miss Dansby. You know, you always miss losing a guy like that. But when you have a top prospect like Vaughn Grissom, who has shown that potential, it makes you sleep a little better at night.
And I do think what's most likely going to happen is if he plays decently going into the season, and it may happen before opening day, it could happen during spring training, but if he has a good spring training and is hitting the ground running, you're probably going to see him get locked up as well. You're going to see him get locked up to a 7, 8, 9, 10-year deal, just like you saw all the other kids. And then the fan base is just going to totally forget. Look, there's always going to be a special place in our heart for Freddie Freeman and Dansby Swanson because they won us a championship. But that doesn't mean you can't make room for the guys who are going to win us the next championship. Because I said it last year, and I'll repeat it. The Atlanta Braves are going to win at least 2 more World Series with this nucleus. At least 2.
Well, it's so young and so good. You don't get this dominant of a young nucleus. Look at the Astros. The Braves kind of remind me of the Astros and the way they built their nucleus, right? Like a bunch of good young star power. The Astros were right back in this World Series last year winning it. I could see the Braves doing it, if not this year, the next year. I mean, they're way too good. And then they know where to add when they need it. You get guys like Sean Murphy. You add in other pieces here and there.
We got to take a quick break. We'll be back in a flash here on Braves Country. Keep it locked in.
I got back to the hotel at 7:30 this morning, and I went up to the
Been all over the world, beat them all. And it's hard to believe, isn't it? Really hard to believe that so much man could be wrapped in such a good-looking package.
Hey, sports fans. The Key has a brand new show. Braves Country is coming your way weekdays 3 p.m. Eastern to 5 p.m. Eastern. Drive time on WQEE. Braves Country is a Southern sports talk show with Mac McGee and the Armchair Quarterbacks. We'll be talking the Atlanta Braves and Major League Baseball, along with everything important to sports fans in Braves Country. The SEC, ACC, Big Ten, and the National Football League. And the big sports news of the day. That's Braves Country with Mac McGee and the Armchair Quarterbacks. Weekdays, 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. right here on WQEE The Key, 99.1 FM. And simulcasting on youtube.com/@Braves Country. Hey, y'all, I'm Mac McGee. And you don't want to miss as we covered the entire NFL on Armchair Quarterback Radio.
12-0 Chicago Bears. If they could go all the way, they would be 19-0. The last undefeated team in pro football history, these Miami Dolphins. 72, 14-0 regular season. After the Super Bowl, they were 17-0 for a 3rd down and 6. Cooper, Moore, and Clayton. Out of the way. Into the arms of Clayton. Oh, and are things going right for the Dolphins tonight? 42-yard touchdown, batted into the air at the line of scrimmage. This is vintage Monday Night Football. Final seconds ticking off. Bears will not go undefeated. What a victory for the Dolphins. And Dan Marino reigns supreme once again.
Welcome back to Braves Country. Mac McGee and the Armchair Quarterbacks. Weekdays, 3 to 5 p.m. Drive time on WQEE. Welcome back. Y'all come home saloon. Wherever the song is. Jones and McGee taking you to the top of the hour. Will Farrell coast to coast will be taking over on the Sports Bat. Remember, tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. to 10 a.m., Ryan on radio. From noon to 2, Rod Peterson Show. And 2 to 3, The Sports Beat. We'll be back here as we are every single 3 to 5 on weekday, every weekday 3 to 5, as Braves Country. We talk all things sports. Tones, the AFC and NFC wild card. Let's jump on that before we have to jump out of here. The playoffs are just weeks away. And look, as much as I have given a hard time to fans of the AFC and NFC South, the fact of the matter is, if your team gets into the playoffs, you're going to be excited. If nothing else, you're going to be excited for that weekend, right?
Mm-hmm.
And You look at let's do the NFC really quick. Giants Commanders was a huge outcome. I think most people have talked in nauseam, about the officiating in that game, and I hit it earlier in the show, so we don't really have time to rewind that. We have to look forward. If you look at the NFC, somebody's got to win the South. The Eagles, Vikings, and Niners are going to be in the playoffs via the division, because I don't see the Eagles totally collapsing and the Cowboys running the table, even if Hurts is out for a couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So right now you got the Giants at 6, the Commanders at 7. They're 8-5-1 and 7-6-1 respectively, and then the Seahawks and the Lions, and that's where you got to cut them off at, because the rest of the teams are done. The Seahawks and the Lions are 7-7 with still a puncher's chance. Right now, Seattle has the tiebreaker over Detroit, but a lot of that could change as it unfolds. Right now, as we hit the home stretch, who are the 2 wild card teams that make it? Because Dallas is already clinched.
I'm leaning with right now, even though they took a loss last night. I'm still going to roll with the Commanders, and I'm going to roll with the Giants as well. I think that 1.5 game lead is a big one for the Giants at this point in time over teams like Seattle, over teams like Detroit, and now even a 1-game lead over the Giants when they're 1-0-1 against them. The Giants are 1-0-1 against the Commanders. I still like the Commanders to sneak in there, and I like the Giants as well. But the way Detroit's playing right now, I like their odds a lot more than Seattle. To me, if any of those, if Seattle or Detroit get in, I like Detroit more than that. But
So
I
you're
still
Washington and New York.
I ultimately would say Washington and New York.
Your political answer is you're taking all 4 of them, but your actual honest answer is you're taking Washington and New York, right?
Yeah. I'm
the whole riding both fences. Well, they both have good people in both cities, and I like them a lot. All right. I'm going to go with the Giants because the winner of that game last night, it became huge.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to take the Lions. And I'm a little concerned with the Lions schedule, mainly because of this coming week, because the Lions are going to Carolina on a short week. And I think that's a tough spot. But you look at the fact that Washington's got to go to the 49ers, play a Browns team that's getting better and better each week with Watson, right? They finish with the Cowboys, but that probably isn't going to matter because the Cowboys will probably be resting everybody. I like what the Lions are doing. They get to play the Bears and the Packers to finish it off. This is an enormous game for the Detroit Lions this coming weekend. If they can win that game, I think they most definitely get the plus. If they lose that game, they got a lot of work to do. The AFC, let's just say for argument's sake, we'll take it to, I think one way or the other, the Ravens and Bengals, whoever wins that division, the loser is going to get in the playoffs. So we'll go ahead and concede that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we'll just say Tennessee, Jacksonville, somebody's going to win the division, someone's not, and they're not going to make the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
We got 4 teams, just a couple of minutes to get this in. Chargers and Dolphins are currently in 6th and 7th place, and they're both 8 and 6. Patriots and Jets are both 7 and 7, a game behind Chargers and Dolphins, and there's 3 games to play. Which to win those 2 final wild cards?
I definitely like the Dolphins as one of them, although they've lost 3 in a row now. I do think that they've played decent football, even though 0-3. And I like Mike McDaniel and their offense in entirety. So give me the Dolphins to for sure latch on there. Then you look at the rest of them, and Brandon Staley tries to lose the Chargers games. The Patriots players try to lose themselves games. It's a tough one. If Zach Wilson is starting this week again, which it looks like he indeed is, I don't know if the Jets could turn it around. Then you look at the Patriots schedule. They got the Bengals, They got the Dolphins and they got at Buffalo. 3 really tough games. Give me the Chargers and give me the Dolphins as of right now. I think it stays how it looks like it's going to. Too tough of a road for New England to me to overcome.
I'm going to go. I do believe the Dolphins find a way in. They get healthy this week because they host the Packers on normal rest, and the Packers will be on short rest because they're playing tonight, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it really comes down to Chargers, Patriots, Jets. Who do I think is only one of those teams can I pick? Man, the Chargers have got the easiest route, but I've got a feeling the Jets are going to find a way in. So I'm going to go with the Jets. But if you look at the Chargers, they play the Colts, who stink, the Rams, who smell, and the Broncos, who are rotten. And they should really win all 3. But you know what I think is going to happen? Because it happens every year with the Chargers. They're going to find a way to lose that Colts game. They're going to beat the Rams, and then the Broncos are going to end their season. And it doesn't make sense because the Chargers should win out. And they should finish, 11-6.
Mm-hmm.
11-6. But they won't. They'll finish 9-8, and they'll lose on a tiebreaker. What's your walk-off for the day, sir?
And then Sean Payton will come to town. My walk-off for the day is it's college bowl season. Enjoy it. We pretty much have football on every day of the week now between bowl games and the NFL expanding their schedule. So enjoy Christmas. Enjoy holiday times with your family. We just had Hanukkah starting yesterday. Sit on the couch, watch some good football between NFL and college. You almost got it any time of day. Oh, and by the way, pay attention to the hot stove. We always got news cranking there.
Have you I can't remember. You're going to be here this Friday, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, okay. Sir. In some capacity. I should be here at least 45 minutes. Yes, sir.
Okay, gotcha. So as the week progresses, we're going to be doing some Christmas-based sports stuff, so look forward to that. My walk-off today is there's news. A former Major League pitcher broke during our show the last hour. Tom Browning has passed away at the age of 62. And he was, I guess he passed away at his home in Boone County, Kentucky, and that's all we really know on it now. If you don't remember Tom Browning, he was a heck of a pitcher, and he was a part of the 1990 World Series champion Reds that upset the juggernaut Oakland A's. That when it was all said and done, the A's only won 1 World Series in '89 when they should have won 3. The Dodgers and the Reds upset them to sandwich that 1 championship. But Tom Browning dies at the age of 62. Doesn't seem possible. And thoughts and prayers out to his family. A nice 12-year career, and finished with 123 wins. I'm looking at 3.94 ERA. But he was an innings eater. All right, we will hand it off to Farrell Coast to Coast. See you mañana, 3 to 5, Braves country. And we're getting closer and closer to Christmas. You better get all that shopping done before it gets ugly around the household. We'll see you.
Goodbye, sweetheart. Well, it's time to go. We're back tomorrow with another show. Well, unless we're fired, we'll talk to you then. Goodbye, sweetheart. Goodbye. Goodbye.
Guys and gals, it's time to go. We'll see you on the next show.
Same bat time, same bat channel.
Thanks for listening to Braves Country with Mac McGee and the Armchair Quarterbacks on 99.1 FM WQEE The Key in Noonan, Georgia, and simulcasting on youtube.com/@Braves Country. Braves Country comes your way weekdays 3 p.m. Eastern to 5 p.m. Eastern. Please follow, like, and subscribe today. Armchair Quarterback Radio, your first choice for Southern sports.
Something of the 5th of September. Something of the 5th of September. She said a lot that I can't remember. Something of the 5th. Give Can I get another cigarette, please? Can I get another cigarette, please? Yeah, I know I live to regret it. Just give me another cigarette, please. Can I get another cigarette, please?
You're listening to WQEE 99.1 FM, The Key in Noonan, Georgia.
Are you looking for a reliable dental practice that not only cares about your teeth, but is friendly to work with? How about one that offers great deals and new patient promotions? Well, your search is over. Most Valuable Smiles in downtown Eatonton, Georgia is committed to giving you the biggest and brightest smile. Right now, get a $99 new patient special, including x-rays and exam. Maybe you're looking for veneers. Most Valuable Smiles veneer special includes one free...
Hey, sports fans, The Key has a brand new show. Braves Country is coming your way weekdays 3 p.m. Eastern to 5 p.m. Eastern. Drive time on WQEE. Braves Country is a Southern sports talk show with Mac McGee and the Armchair Quarterbacks. We'll be talking the Atlanta Braves and Major League Baseball, along with everything important to sports fans in Braves Country. The SEC, ACC, Big Ten, and the National Football League, and the big sports news of the day. That's Braves Country with Mac McGee and the Armchair Quarterbacks. Weekdays, 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. right here on WQEE The Key, 99.1 FM, and simulcasting on youtube.com/@Braves Country.